I wanted to keep my momentum up with 2017 and do another Christmas card. I came up with an idea. You may know is this idea ended up taking a lot longer than I anticipated, and I didn't get it done for 2017. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back to the idea for 2017. The previous year I said I wanted to lay on a bear rug on the floor. I think my disappointment in not getting a bear rug made me come up with the idea of having a polar bear in my Christmas card. I kind of had an idea. I wanted it to be a cross between the Chronicles of Narnia with the White Queen and a Coca-Cola Christmas ad. And if you know my mom, she likes Coca-Cola, and I often get her Coca-Cola things. So I was like, this is just going to be the coolest card ever. I never made a bear or a polar bear before, and I had only done one creature that I can think of back in college. The main character of our video game, Gulo. His name was Nivik. He was a gopher groundhog thing, and that was a long time ago. I wanted to give myself a little bit of time and make the bear and do it right. One of the things I wanted to do with more modern technology was make him furry. I did some research, and I figured out a way to do it. One of the first steps when doing a project like this is to set up a mood board on Pinterest. That way I can find references and inspiration and then get it all bookmarked and ready for me to look at when I need to. Search for ideas, search for similar things. Like I said, the Narnia, so I was like, how am I going to do the polar bear? Is it going to be my friend? Is it going to be my slave? Am I going to ride on top of it? Am I going to use it as a ski? Am I going to have a sleigh? I think my original idea was to have a sleigh and have two polar bears, and they're dragging me, and I'm whipping them. That didn't happen, though. So after I got all my references and all that, and was working on the bear, I did some tutorials to figure out how to do the fur stuff. And initially, it was quite promising. I was getting a little bit of odd results, but it was pretty neat results, and I thought I was going to be able to fine-tune it. Unfortunately, I got to a point where it took 16 hours to render a single test image to see if my changes did anything. It got to the point where I just could not make any progress, because any change I would do would result in another 16 hours, and my change typically did not fix what I wanted to fix. I ran out of time, and it was just going to be impossible for me to set up the card and get it out in time for Christmas. I gave up, and I decided to try to work on the next year, over the year, and get it figured out. A few times throughout 2018, I worked on my polar bear. I decided not to focus on the fur part and just get the body finished and the head. When I initially did the body, I didn't do the head because I knew that was going to take a while. Probably sometime over the summer I finished the head, but it looked terrible. I don't know if I have a picture of what it looked like, but it kind of looked like an aardvark, and the nose, the snout was just terrible, and I almost gave up again because I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this. But then December hit, and I got a little bit of Christmas spirit in me, and I buckled down and forced myself to work on it. And I eventually got the head looking in a good condition, tweaked the body, and then I was like, this is good enough for my card. I hate saying things are good enough, I'm going to leave it this way, but it ended up being good enough. I tried again to use the fur modifier because it was a new version of Max. I was hoping it was going to work a little bit better, and initially it was working pretty neat. When I just had the bear in my scene, I could do it and it looked okay. I was getting a few weird results periodically, but I was like, yeah, I'm going to get it worked out. I'll fine-tune the fur when the rest of the scene is done and go back to it. So I get the rest of the scene done and everything else and go back to the fur. And at this point, my scene must have become there just must have been too much there, because when I go to render it with the fur, I ended up crashing after about 10 minutes. And then I had tweaked some settings and tried to render it again, and it would crash again, and again, and again. And it happened like I was working on it all week, and I didn't get any progress. And then the weekend again, I kept trying to change stuff and get it working, and it just would not work. I thought I was about to give up again, but then I remembered, I know Unreal Engine 4. I can set up my scene in there, get it going, and I might even be able to get fur working somehow. And so on the one weekend, I created a new scene in Unreal. Actually, that was a lie. I had a test scene that I was trying to use a plugin with that I ended up not going with, but it already had some post-processing effects and some camera settings applied. Figured that'd be a really good start for me to go. So I export everything out of Max, set up everything in Unreal. I had to create some materials for it to look the way I wanted it to. And then I found this tutorial on how to try to make a fur carpet. And so I applied this tutorial to my polar bear to try to get him to work. Apparently it doesn't work with round objects as well as it does flat objects because it was causing some problems. I kind of tweaked it and then kind of just did another it's good enough for the card. If you look hard you can see a few errors, but in general it looks good enough. Now, knowing Unreal like I do, I know you can take high-res screenshots, which if you know a standard monitor or even an old school TV, you're really limited on the pixels you can use. But if you're going to be printing, you're going to want to get things out as high-res as possible. And Unreal has an option for the high-res screenshot. So I was just able to drag the slider up to 5, take my screenshot, throw that into Photoshop, and get the perfect size that I needed to print a 5x7 card. The only thing missing was me. So I did all the hard part of modeling, setting up a scene, getting it lit, getting materials, getting it looking good, rendering it. But I had to do the photoshopping part, which I've been working with Photoshop since 2000, so I know what I'm doing for the most part, and I knew this was not going to be too hard. Just the hard part was going to be getting the actual photo to look like it belonged with the bear. So I have this Bluetooth shutter that lets me Bluetooth connect to my phone and take photos by clicking a button. So I got a general scene set up. I found an area where I could fit both the camera and myself and me being shot and it be about the right angle. So I get my camera, my phone set up, and then to sit on something, I used a cooler because I needed it to where both my legs could fit around the object, and then not have like a chair back or anything be in the way. So I used the cooler, and then I have this white blanket that looks furry. So I was going to try to sit on that to make it, if there was any like fuzz on my pants or anything, to get the proper color of light bouncing between what I'm sitting on and my legs. And so I sat there and I took photos, and it took a few tries of me positioning my phone to get the right angle, but I finally got it. But even though my phone was right at the right angle, it doesn't mean I sit at the right angle, because you can see I move around, the proportions change, and things look different, and some of the photos of me just look horrible. But I just kept clicking away. I took hundreds, if not thousands, of photos, and luckily when I was going through them, I found one probably a dozen in that I put as the top of my maybe pile. And then I kept going, and they just got worse and worse and worse. And so I was like, whatever, the one that was in my maybe pile is the one that's going to work. And it's the one I ended up going, and my eyes are closed, and it just looks silly. It looks like I'm being embraced in the Christmas spirit and just being majestic. And it looks like I planned for that pose, but it just was that's just the way it turned out. So I got my photo and the high-res screenshot into Photoshop. And I know what I'm doing. I need multiple layers of each, and I need to get them stacked right and cut them out and make sure they fit. I need to try to get the lighting looking somewhat similar, and then try to add shadows where my body would create shadows on the polar bear that weren't in the 3D scene. This ended up, a couple hours probably total, but it wasn't that long or hard. The longer phase was actually getting these printed out. I was going to print them myself. I have a pretty decent photo printer. I had recently remembered that I do not have 5x7 photo paper though, but I had excess of 8x10. So I was able to print 2 of the 5x7s on the 8x10 and then just cut them out myself. I figured I'd save a little bit of money by doing that, but it kind of wasted my time and was annoying, and I didn't cut them out very good. And then I also ran out of the good HP photo paper, but I had backup paper from a off-brand, but the print quality on those papers was terrible. I was actually pissed off by how bad those were. They were worthless. So then I had to go buy more photo paper, and at this point I was actually starting to get things mailed, and then realized I did not have enough envelopes to fit these. So I had to go buy more envelopes also. And what really pisses me off is you can get regular envelopes, like letter size envelopes, like 50 or 100 for $1, but if you want the 5x7 envelopes, it's $15 or $10 for 15. I ended up having to get a second set of envelopes too because I mailed so many out. I luckily had enough stamps saved up from the last couple years that I didn't buy any new stamps this year. Another big thing that took a lot of time was actually getting people's addresses. I've been doing this a few years now, and I'm starting to get organized, and I have this spreadsheet of a bunch of addresses, but a lot of these are inaccurate. But it was still hard getting people to give me their address. For as much as people seem to enjoy my cards when I hand them in person, they do not want me knowing their address. I don't know what they think I'm going to do with their address. I just want to send them a cool card. But thanks for those of you who actually gave me the address. So I think that covers everything. This is making a Christmas card. And perhaps I'll see you next year with the next idea.